Namaskara and welcome to BIC Talks, a podcast by Bangalore International Centre, bringing you conversations that move, inform, and encourage discourse.
The Chief Minister has been criticized for being a weak bystander during this polarizing process. It certainly was not his style before he became Chief Minister. Nor was it Mr. Yediyurappa's style when he was Chief Minister for the BJP. Yediyurappa tried to reassure Muslims that they would be protected. For Karnataka's BJP, this drive for polarization is something new, driven from above. The key question here is, can communal polarization win many votes for the BJP? There are good reasons to doubt that it can.
Karnataka will be conducting its assembly elections in the middle of 2023. With this on the horizon, BIC begins a series of talks titled Karnataka Votes 2023 that highlights the various elements of state politics, its culture and history that are often unique to the state and affect the voting pattern. The first in this lecture series is a talk by long-term observer of Karnataka politics, Professor James Manor, who will discuss the political history of Karnataka, bringing it up to date. Among the themes that Professor Manor will be discussing are the difficulties that ruling parties have faced in winning re-elections in Karnataka since 1985, the social and geographical basis of the main political parties, and the promise and limitations of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity in state elections.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to connect again to the Bangalore International Centre, where I've actually talked about elections before, and to connect again to my Indian hometown, which I miss badly here in England. I'm a long way away, but I do have a lot of evidence and a lot of good advice from colleagues in Karnataka. The first thing to say is that it is very hard for state governments to win re-election in Karnataka. The last time it happened, as you have heard, was 1985, 37 years ago. That means that 7 state elections have gone by without the ruling party being re-elected. Even governments that governed effectively were rejected at those elections. Now, why? It's partly because in the 1990s, since the 1990s, 3 parties, not 2, 3 parties win seats, and they prevent any one party from winning a majority. It's partly because Karnataka's voters are sophisticated and demanding, and it's partly because of the geographical distribution of votes for the 3 main parties. Congress's votes are distributed evenly across the state, but thinly. The BJP's votes are concentrated in the northern and central areas of the state, partly because they rely heavily on Lingayat support, and the Veerashaiva movement occurred mainly in those parts of the state. The Janata Dal secular or JDS votes are concentrated in the southern districts, where Wakaligas are traditionally dominant on the land. So those 2 parties, BJP and JDS, those 2 parties win many seats even when Congress wins more votes. So, for example, at the 2004 state election, Congress gained 7% more votes than the BJP, but the BJP won 14 more seats than Congress because those Congress votes were so thinly spread across the state. The main parties also have different social bases. Lingayats and Wakaligas dominated state politics until 1972, but Devaraj Urs, the chief minister from 72 to 1980, broke their dominance of state politics, and he changed the rules of elections in Karnataka by mobilizing other groups who had become politically aware over time. And since then, to win elections, parties must appeal not just to the formerly dominant landed castes, but also to disadvantaged groups, which are very politically aware. They're not at all sleepy. Lingayats and Wakaligas have gained more election tickets than their numerical strength would justify in recent times. They have also retained more influence than their numerical strength would justify, but they cannot dominate politics as they did before 1972. By the way, to correct misstatements that have occurred even more recently in the press, Lingayats and Wakaligas are not majority communities, even in the areas where they're concentrated. The numbers vary from survey to survey, but Lingayats make up about between 14 and 17% of the state's population, and Wakaligas between 11 and 12% of the state's population. This is a far cry from being majority communities. Brahmins, by the way, are 3.5%, OBCs 23%, scheduled castes 15 to 17%, scheduled tribes 5 to 7%, and Muslims 11 to 16%. As you know, many Wakaligas back the JDS, and many Lingayats have supported the BJP since the 1990s. And the upcoming Virashaiva Mahasabha Unity Conference could solidify Lingayat support for the BJP at the coming election. Although the main focus of that conference is in fact reservations, which poses something of a problem for any state government. Under Mr. Siddharamaya's lead, the Congress Party has pursued an Ahinda strategy, which you know about, appealing to OBCs, Muslims, and scheduled castes. It's a strategy similar to that of Devaraj Urs in the 1970s. But Congress struggles to gain support from the ritually left-hand section of the scheduled caste. Mr. Kharge's election as National Congress president is unlikely to change that because he comes from the ritually right-hand section of the scheduled caste. Although, as we will see, Mr. Kharge offers Congress a different advantage and an important advantage over its previous leadership. Congress hopes now that the promise of Mr. Shiva Kumar will bring it Wakaliga votes along with Ahinda group votes. The Wakaliga votes would be taken presumably mainly from the JDS. But three things are unclear. It's not clear how big the gains will be from Mr. Shiva Kumar's leadership. It's not clear how well the difficult combination of Ahinda and an appeal to Wakaligas will work. And it's not clear how damaging factional conflict between the supporters of Mr. Siddharamaya and Mr. Shiva Kumar will be, although so far, conflict appears to have been contained, but there's a long way to go before the election, which will probably take place in May. Now, what might hurt or help the BJP in the state election? Well, for a start, corruption might damage the BJP. You may remember that Mr. Modi alleged that the Congress government, Mr. Siddharamaya's government, was a 10% government. It took a 10% commission on all public works and so on. But in July of 2021, an association of major contractors in the state wrote to the Prime Minister to say that the BJP was demanding 40%. Not 10. And when no action was taken, they protested again in August of this year. Also, in August of this year, a judge of the Karnataka High Court said, this is a quote, "Nowadays in government offices, corruption has become rampant and no file will be moved without any bribe." Now, we must be careful about analyzing this issue. These are examples of alleged corruption at high levels in the government. What is unclear is how much retail corruption at lower levels in the system occurs. The kind of corruption that is felt by ordinary voters so that it could influence the election result. We don't know the answer to that. One thing that might help the BJP is money, their access to large amounts of money. Contrary to some claims, money seldom wins Indian elections. Since 1980, across India, in national and state elections, roughly 70% of the parties that had more money have lost. But in 2019, the BJP at the general election, the national election, had 18 times more money than all of the other parties put together. And it has a bigger advantage over the other parties now because of electoral bonds. So when we look at money, the playing field in Indian elections is no longer level in this and in other ways. Such a massive advantage in money as the BJP now has could produce gains for it at the state election. There's one odd thing to notice when we talk about money and politicians. All three of the main parties in Karnataka increasingly give most of their tickets at state elections to crore parties. In 2018, 99% of Congress MLAs were crore parties. 98% of BJP MLAs were crore parties, and 95% of JDS MLAs were crore parties. These are the highest levels of any state in India except for one. Why do they turn to crore parties? The Janata Dal S and the Congress need rich candidates because those two parties are not well funded. But there's a mystery because the BJP, which is very well funded, also turns to crore parties as candidates. Maybe they expect the candidates to fund their own campaigns because most of their big money is controlled and spent by leaders at the top of the national level BJP. Another thing that might help the BJP in this election is the Prime Minister's campaign. He is a highly skilled campaigner, as everybody understands. He is a major asset for the BJP at any election. And he's helped by a robust effort at image building. His image appears on vaccination certificates and many other things. The promotion of his personality cult has reached remarkable levels. Consider these comments, for example, by BJP's senior leaders. It has been said by one that God has sent Mr. Modi as his representative. Another, that he is God's gift to India. Another has said that he has traces of God in him. Another leader said he is the incarnation of God. And a further leader, the president of the BJP, has gone further to say that Mr. Modi is the leader of the gods. Now, with this kind of image, Mr. Modi wants to make the most of this in state elections. And recently in Himachal Pradesh, where there's a state election, he said there's no need to consider local candidates. Every vote for the BJP was, in effect, a vote for Modi. He's personalizing the campaign. But this approach does not always work in state elections. Since 2014, the BJP has fallen short in state elections in Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Goa, and Orissa, and it was badly beaten in Delhi and West Bengal. So when Mr. Modi comes to Karnataka to campaign in the state election, we should perhaps remember what happened in 1985. There was a non-Congress government with Ramakrishna Hegde as chief minister. Rajiv Gandhi, 9 weeks before the state election of 1985, had suffered the loss of his mother in an assassination. And the people of India and the people of Karnataka were very enthusiastic about Rajiv Gandhi, a new face and a man who deserved huge sympathy. And Rajiv Gandhi had led the Congress to a sweep in the parliamentary election of December 1984. Mr. Hegde was therefore needed to counter the influence of this great figure at the national level. And he went around Karnataka saying one thing to voters. He said, if the Congress wins this election, this state election, Rajiv Gandhi will not be coming to Bangalore to become chief minister. Someone else will. And I think Mr. Siddaramaiah, Mr. Shiva Kumar now might say to the people of Karnataka that if the BJP wins the state election, Mr. Modi will not be coming to Bangalore to be chief minister. He'll remain in Delhi. Somebody else will be the chief minister. This old strategy may have a new use. BJP leaders have said that their campaign will rely on two things. First, their delivery of goods, services, development, and infrastructure. And second, communal polarization. Let's look at these two things. To deliver goods and services and development, a government and a ruling party must have effective machinery. But the comment by that High Court judge that no file moves without a bribe inspires doubts about the effectiveness of the state government. And in August, Karnataka's law minister was caught on tape saying, there is no functioning government. Now, that's worrying for the BJP in a state where since '85, even governments that governed well failed to be re-elected. Why is this problem affecting the BJP? Why is it not better functioning more effectively? It's partly because of the conflict between long-term BJP loyalists and the new defectors who were induced to join the party during Operation Kamala, when the Congress-led government was unseated. As a result of this conflict between these groups, the Karnataka BJP is, in the words of my colleague Sandeep Shastri, plagued by disunity, discord, and disharmony like nowhere else. Chief Minister Bommai has been unable to master the situation, and so the entire emphasis has been on Mr. Modi. At a large rally in Mangalore not long ago, the Prime Minister made no reference to the Chief Minister. In Karnataka, as in other states, Amit Shah has strengthened the BJP at booth level, although that system has been a partial disappointment in the recent Gujarat state election. But booth level strengthening helps only in vote mobilization. Amit Shah's centralization of power has actually weakened the Karnataka BJP in other ways, as state-level BJP leaders have said in private. And the BJP organization in Karnataka was never as strong as in states further north because of Mr. Yediyurappa's autocratic actions as party leader during his long innings in that role. This new disorder within the BJP undermines the delivery of goods, services, and development. All across India, to compensate for that sort of thing, the BJP has adopted a new method for delivering goods and services. It bypasses the party organization and it bypasses BJP MLAs delivering goods and services through IT, information technology systems. But despite claims to the contrary, there is a lot of evidence on the malfunctioning of Aadhaar, one of the main IT systems. That evidence indicates that huge numbers of people are actually being left out by these new IT systems. We've also seen that the overly complicated process through which disabled people in Karnataka must obtain pensions has caused a sharp decline in the numbers of people gaining pensions over the last 2 years. The one wonders whether the alternative way of delivering goods and services is up to speed. The second theme that the BJP will be stressing is communal polarization. Now, you are familiar with this, I think. Bans on hijabs, bans on Muslim traders operating their Hindu festivals, urging Hindus not to buy halal meats, and even mangoes from Muslims, attacks on Muslim sellers of watermelons and bananas, urging people traveling to temples not to hire taxis from people who ate non-vegetarian food. The state BJP's unit has also lent support to wildly extreme comments by Mr. Anand Kumar Hegde, a BJP MP, and further polarizing claims by the BJP's MP for Bangalore South. The BJP is promoting the saffronizing of school textbooks, the proposed painting of 7,500 classrooms saffron, etc., etc. The trend is very clear. This is part of the strategy. The chief minister has been criticized for being a weak bystander during this polarizing process. It certainly was not his style before he became chief minister, nor was it Mr. Yediyurappa's style when he was chief minister for the BJP. Yediyurappa tried to reassure Muslims that they would be protected. For Karnataka's BJP, this drive for polarization is something new, driven from above. The key question here is, can communal polarization win many votes for the BJP? There are good reasons to doubt that it can. At the 2013 state election, hardline actions by Hindutva activists in coastal districts of Karnataka. The coastal districts were long a stronghold of the BJP. Those hardline actions alienated voters there, so that astonishingly, Congress swept the coast at the 2013 state election. That suggests that communal polarization may not have as much popular appeal as the BJP leaders are hoping. What about Congress? Congress seeks votes for an Ahinda plus strategy. Ahinda follows a strategy similar to that of Devraj Urs, but with Mr. Shiva Kumar now in the leading role, Congress also seeks votes from Wakaligas as well. The Wakaligas are the plus attached to Ahinda. This is actually not really a departure from Devraj Urs's strategy. He once told me that he believed that his pro-poor policies could attract votes from many disadvantaged Wakaligas. Maybe it can work this time. But Congress faces three problems here. Will they actually attract many Wakaliga votes when many Wakaligas have been alienated by Ahinda and by Mr. Siddharamaya's move from JDS to Congress in 2005? Wakaligas have tended to back the JDS. Second, will divisions in Congress between supporters from the two leaders, Siddharamaya and Shiva Kumar, will they damage Congress? And finally, will enough voters from the fragmented OBC category respond to the Ahinda message, which seeks support from all of them, and vote for Congress? OBCs are not a coherent group. They're fragmented in every region of India and, of course, in Karnataka. There's another important issue here, and this is one that helps Congress. The election of Mr. Kharge will probably protect the Karnataka Congress from damaging interventions by the Congress High Command. We have, for example, seen in Punjab recently, at the state election there, the destruction that resulted from the extremely unwise decision by the High Command to impose a loose cannon like Navjot Singh Sidhu. It was a crazy appointment to make, and it destroyed Congress in Punjab. These unhelpful interventions from the High Command have also been a problem in Karnataka many times. The Congress High Command's choice of leaders for the Karnataka Congress have often done damage. Janardhan Pujari was a disastrous Pradesh Congress Committee president. After him, a new and competent PCC president revived the Congress, but later, Pujari was made PCC president again, even though he was a disaster the first time. The Congress High Command did not understand that he had been a disaster. Nor did the High Command see that Prithviraj Chauhan and Madhusudan Mistry did damage to the party, the Congress, as state election overseers. After causing congressmen big problems in one state election, Mr. Chauhan was imposed on them at a second state election. And then he was made Chief Minister of Maharashtra, where he did not do very well. After causing Karnataka congressmen serious trouble at one state election, Mr. Mistry was promoted for what the High Command mistakenly saw as his excellent performance in Karnataka. At this election, fortunately for Congress, Mr. Kharge probably has the understanding and the authority to prevent this sort of thing from happening. So far, the Congress campaign in Karnataka is going well. There is an effort at mass outreach. There's visible state Congress leadership, and there are said to be enthusiastic state cadres who perhaps anticipate victory. It's important to note, by the way, that the BJP has also suffered, like Congress, has also suffered damage from intrusions from the national level. The state level BJP has suffered from Amit Shah's mistakes, his intrusions in state elections, which I have studied in Karnataka, but also in Bihar and Orissa, where I have done field research. And now in Karnataka, Amit Shah is in charge again and may repeat some of the mistakes that he made in previous elections. Finally, the JDS. They face what may be serious problems. There is over-centralization and dictatorial leadership in the party. There is increasing focus on Mr. Deve Gowda's family, and all of this causes discontent within the organization. The JDS has suffered embarrassing losses in assembly by-elections last year and in more recent legislative council elections in Karnataka. And in addition to that, there have been exits from the JDS to Congress by prominent leaders. These things sound worrying if you are an enthusiast for the Janata Dal secular. However, we need to be careful not to write off the JDS. This is seen by some people as Mr. Deve Gowda's last election, and his emotional pleas for votes may attract more support from Wakaligas than Mr. Shiva Kumar's appeal to them from Congress. Some Wakaliga voters also resent Mr. Siddharamaya's Ahinda emphasis. So perhaps the JDS may not do too badly. If it does even somewhat well, that would be bad news for Congress. There are also reports that the JDS and the BJP together, who are afraid of a Congress surge in votes, may agree to put up weak candidates against each other in some constituencies. That could help the JDS, and it could cost the Congress a few seats, maybe more than a few seats. And then there's a fourth party in the mix, the Aam Aadmi Party. And it's seeking to make headway, and some of my friends who write to me are very enthusiastic about it in Karnataka. If it made significant gains, that would undermine support for Congress and the other parties as well. Mainly for Congress, however. But the evidence so far suggests that the Aam Aadmi Party's impact will be limited mainly to urban areas. And that's not enough. It's very important to understand that Karnataka elections are won and lost in rural Maidan constituencies, as opposed to Malnad, hill country, and urban constituencies. Rural constituencies on the plains, as it were, the Deccan Plateau, are the key to victory in any Karnataka state election. So if the Aam Aadmi Party fails to penetrate into those constituencies, and the evidence suggests that it is failing, then it will struggle to perform well in this and any state election. So, who will win the state election? It's far too early to say. There are too many uncertainties, unanswered questions, some of which I have raised. But let's talk about the political arithmetic. The State Assembly in Karnataka has long had 224 seats. A majority is, of course, 113, but to be safe, a party needs to win about 120 seats. Now, traditionally, if we look back over previous elections, the BJP can count on winning at least 60 to 80 seats. Congress can count on winning at least 80 to 90 seats. Both of them, those figures are, of course, a long way from 120. The JDS can count on winning around 25 seats. Now, at some elections, Congress has crossed 120. But the BJP in Karnataka has never won a majority of seats in a state election. Its best showings were 110 at the election of 2008 and 104 at the election of 2018. So because it cannot or has not yet won a majority of seats in the state, the BJP has been forced twice to rely on inducing defections from Congress and perhaps the JDS. It has had to rely on Operation Kamala, as they call it. That took place, there was one of those in 2008, and another one, as you know, in 2019, which explains why the BJP is now governing Karnataka. I should say that since 2014, since Mr. Modi became the leader of the party, Operation Kamalas have become common across India. There have been exercises in a great many states to induce defectors from a ruling party or a ruling coalition to join the BJP, and that has enabled the BJP to take power in a number of states across the country. You know, I think, all about this. But it's important to note that the pioneer in Operation Kamala exercises, the pioneer is Karnataka, because the first one in 2008, long before Mr. Modi became the national leader of BJP, the first Operation Kamala occurred under the leadership of Mr. Yediyurappa for the BJP in 2008. Now, when you get Operation Kamalas taking place, they always cause factional infighting, factional tension, and quarreling within the BJP between the long-term loyalists who believe they should be rewarded for their faithful membership and defectors, the new coming turncoats from Congress or other parties. And this kind of conflict, as a result of Operation Kamala, as a result of these defection episodes, has helped to deny BJP government's re-election in Karnataka and to some extent elsewhere. And that internal infighting within the BJP is a serious problem now for the BJP. The same thing that enabled the BJP to take power in 2019 through Operation Kamala is also perhaps a reason why the BJP may not win re-election next year. In June, we don't have much polling, by the way, to guide us in our expectations about the state election. In June, there was an internal poll in private, it wasn't a public matter, conducted by the Congress in Karnataka. And the internal poll suggested that Congress would win 130 seats out of 224. That's a very solid majority that would enable Congress to govern. But of course, it was only one poll. We don't know who conducted it, how reliable they are, and the people who conducted it may have been inclined to help give Congress a favorable picture to please their employers. There will be more polls in the weeks and months ahead, but we have to be very careful in reading pre-polls from different agencies, because some of them are unreliable. Some of them are intended to show one or another party in a good light. The best opinion polling in India, some of the best opinion polling in the world, is conducted by CSDS Lokaniti out of New Delhi, the Center for the Study of Developing Societies in Delhi. But I should stress that when you see the numbers that come out of CSDS Lokaniti polling, what you will see are vote share, numbers are for vote shares, not numbers for seat totals. That is because the very careful, honest, and scrupulous people at CSDS Lokaniti refuse to take their vote share figures and project them in terms of calculations of seats. Because when you translate from vote share to seat numbers, things often go quite wrong. And the CSDS people know that, and therefore they don't do that. There's a number cruncher in Chennai who has at times independently taken the CSDS vote share numbers and translated them into not so reliable estimates of seat totals. But his projections, which may appear in newspapers at the same time as CSDS polling, his estimates do not have the approval or confidence of CSDS Lokaniti. So because of these uncertainties about the polling, plenty of other uncertainties will remain with us until the people of Karnataka are able to give their verdict. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions.
Giridhar Shri is asking what's your stand on the increasing rowdy sheeters into the elections in Karnataka, those with criminal records?
Yes. Well, it's obviously an unfortunate, depressing trend, and it's somewhat similar to the increasing number of crore parties who get nominations to the state assembly. But it's worse because rowdy sheeters are extremely depressing figures. What happens is, I think, that various political parties think first of winnability, as they put it, when they choose their candidates. Winnability used to be mostly about the caste background and the personal reputations of various potential candidates. But as parties have found it harder and harder to get their people reelected, there's a huge turnover at elections in Karnataka and in India of people being thrown out who were in office before. The parties have become a bit more desperate and have turned to this kind of the rowdy sheeter who is supposedly has the respect of the people in the particular constituency. And I would be surprised if very many of these rowdy sheeters actually gets elected. I hope someone is watching that. But it's a depressing trend. It's not the sort of trend that will wreck government, but it is depressing, and it doesn't help.
Next question is from Narayana A. Given the Karnataka electorate's historical proclivity to support parties with a national image, would it not be a disadvantage for the Congress that its position at the national level is the weakest ever as it faces the next elections in Karnataka?
Yes, this question comes from a very learned observer of Karnataka politics, to my certain knowledge. Anyway, I don't think it's necessarily a huge problem for the Congress for two reasons. First, you can go back to numerous state elections in Karnataka and discover that the winning party, whatever it is, turns out to be different from the ruling party in New Delhi. In fact, for a long time, that was Karnataka, more than almost any other state, had parties in power at the state level which were different from the parties in New Delhi. And I think that suggests that the voters in Karnataka are not too bothered about who is running the New Delhi government when they go to the polls for their own state government. And the second thing is that it may be, we don't know, and we'll find out soon, it may be that the yatra led by Rahul Gandhi has, to some extent, regenerated the image of the Congress as a national institution and regenerated the image of Rahul Gandhi as somebody who is worthwhile as a leader at the national level. That may also ease this problem somewhat. I don't think there's any way the yatra can hurt the Congress. So I don't expect that this will be a significant factor in the state election.
Vishesh Guru asks, what is the post-Yediyurappa equation of the BJP with Lingayat Mutts?
That's a good one. That's a good question. It's a bit of a mystery. Many of the Lingayat Mutts would have been unhappy to see Mr. Yediyurappa moved out of office as chief minister. However, the successor is another Lingayat who those Mutts I think highly of. And Mr. Yediyurappa has been given a place in the National Parliamentary Committee by the BJP, which in reality doesn't mean much, but it looks good. It helps ease any hurt that he may have over being excluded. And at the forthcoming conference that the Virashaiva Mahasabha is organizing in Karnataka, both Mr. Yediyurappa and Mr. Bommai will be present as honored guests. And this suggests that there won't be a significant negative fallout amongst Lingayat the Swamijis and the followers of the Mutts at Mr. Yediyurappa's ouster as chief minister. But it remains to be seen whether that is true, and the Mahasabha's conference may be a scene where there is a certain amount of infighting between different Lingayat subcastes, jatis, over the reservations issue. But I think in general, the BJP may have escaped lightly the fallout from the stepping down of Mr. Yediyurappa.
Tushita Patel has two questions. One is, why does Professor Manor think money won't be playing a big role in Karnataka politics? And you mentioned mistakes made in Bihar and Orissa by the BJP. What mistakes do you think those will be in Karnataka?
Well, let me try to answer the second question first. I did field research when the Orissa and Bihar elections took place, and as well as the previous Karnataka election. The mistakes that the BJP made serious mistakes particularly in Bihar, where they stressed communal polarization in parts of the state where it had very little promise. And the Bihar voters found this rather shocking. and reacted against it. So the more communal polarization Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah pursued in certain parts of Bihar, the fewer votes they got. The polarization undermined support for the BJP there. Now, it may not have that effect in Karnataka. We don't know. It does not have that effect in UP and Gujarat, but it did there. In Karnataka, at the last state election, Amit Shah came into the state and immediately told the BJP state leaders, these will be the themes, the issues on which we campaign. And the BJP leaders, state level leaders, could see that most of the themes that Amit Shah was stressing and forcing upon them were themes that did not have much popularity in Karnataka. They were not appropriate to Karnataka. He forced them to pursue those themes anyway, and the party lost, I think, lost ground as a result of it. And my suspicion is that Amit Shah's methods remain similar, and we may see the BJP damaged by his interventions again. I don't know. It's too early to say, but I think this is a serious danger because he has done this before in other states. What about money? Why do I think money won't matter in the state election? I think what I said was that it's quite possible that money will matter because the BJP has so much more money than all of the other parties put together. If the BJP has 20 times more money than all the parties combined, then that's such a huge advantage that it may in fact make some difference. But I also know that Karnataka's voters are very sophisticated, very discerning, and it may not be possible to buy their votes. When you consider that in December 1984, the Congress swept the state in a parliamentary election, a Lok Sabha election. 9 weeks later, the votes shifted from the Congress party, from the Congress party to the Hegde's opposition group in 105 out of 224 constituencies. This is an astonishing switch in voting support, and it could only take place if the voters were politically sophisticated and assertive. That was 37 years ago, and the political awakening of disadvantaged groups and ordinary folk has increased since then. So I think I would be surprised if money was anything like decisive in the coming state election.
Bharat Joshi, who's a journalist, asked, how do you, as a pundit, read pro or anti-incumbency? Can the ruling BJP use the remaining couple of months to brew pro-incumbency?
I think anti-incumbency as a sentiment is somewhat overestimated by political scientists and journalists, somewhat, but it is a factor that Indian elections see a very high turnover in the number of members of parliament, members of legislative assemblies re-elected. So it's not only is re-election difficult for a state government, it's often difficult for MLAs. The BJP has had 2 years in which to show that it can deliver goods and services, that its MLAs and can have the resources and the authority to do constructive things so that their people in their constituencies get to like them better. And the BJP's method of delivering goods and services has taken resources and authority out of the hands of MLAs. They are starved of power and resources. They are less able than before to deliver goods and services. And on top of that, you have supposedly, according to the law minister, a non-functioning government. I think they only have 5 months between now and the state election, and it's a bit late in the day to turn around what looks like a negative record for Karnataka's BJP MLAs. So I would be, if I were a BJP supporter, I would be a bit worried that a lot of MLAs are less popular than they should be as election day approaches.
Sandeep Modgal asks, how big a hole has the autocratic leadership of Yediyurappa created for the state BJP? Do you see a resurgence of a credible leadership in the BJP state unit?
There are two questions there, and I think there has not been much of a regeneration within the state unit since Mr. Yediyurappa was required to stand down. What has happened is that power has been, this has happened all over India, the power at the state level within the BJP has been radically centralized in the hands of the Prime Minister, not the hands of the national government, the Prime Minister himself personally. And so the state leadership of the BJP in Karnataka, like their counterparts in other states, has been disempowered by this drive for personal rule of India, which we have been witnessing, which has only one precedent in India, and that was Indira Gandhi. So the state level leadership has not been in a position to regenerate itself. Mr. Bomai has repeatedly been left, has repeatedly discovered that events have moved beyond his control, partly because the national leadership has decided that that's how things should go. Mr. Yediyurappa, unlike state-level leaders of the BJP in other states, in many other states, Mr. Yediyurappa was an extremely autocratic leader of the BJP when he ran the party, as he did for a long, long time. I've conducted many hundreds of interviews with politicians and political activists in India over the last half century, and on only one occasion did a member of the political party break down crying, weeping in despair over the hopelessness of his leader. And that was in Bangalore when two young BJP activists wept in describing the autocratic controls of Mr. Yediyurappa, which prevented the BJP organization in Karnataka from developing strength. So that was a long-standing problem. But since he was forced out of the leadership of the party by the high command of the BJP, the BJP has not had a chance to bounce back, to gain strength as an organization because of radical centralization in New Delhi.
Two or three of our attendees are asking about the impact of the Bharat Jodo Yatra and if it will have any effect on the results in Karnataka.
Yeah, the quick answer to this question is that I don't know, and I'm not sure anybody knows yet. We have to see if this has any political impact longer term. And it's impossible to, we don't have polling on, as far as I know, we don't have any polling on the subject. So I don't really know. It might be quite important or not, and we just have to wait and find out.
Abhimanyu Arora asks, do local municipal elections results correlate with state elections in Karnataka, in your opinion?
Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And the same would be true of panchayat elections. So I don't think there's a lot we can read into those elections, either positively or negatively. I wouldn't worry too much about them. If there were a very strong rejection of one particular party, or a strong victory for another across many municipal or other panchayat elections, that would be worth noticing. But in general, I don't think it's much of a guide.
Chaitra asks, do OBCs vote uniformly across the state, and what keeps them united or loyal to a particular party in Karnataka?
The answer is they do not vote in a uniform manner across the state. And if you look at the OBC category, which contains a very large number of jatis or subcastes, the voting patterns from one to the next group within the OBC category often vary a lot. So they don't, either geographically or in terms of different social subgroups, they don't vote consistently. It's a nightmare for the parties because you have all three parties, especially the BJP and the Congress, seeking to mobilize different OBC groups, and they keep some of them are very elusive, and they don't, and inconsistent over time. So this is for politicians. The OBC category is a bit of a nightmare.
Alfonso Tagliaferri wants to shift for a moment the focus to policy. What do you think will be the main lines in the electoral programs of the three main parties in the months to come? How will they position themselves in terms of policy standings?
Well, I think the BJP will probably emphasize a number of national initiatives and to some extent nationally inspired and funded infrastructure undertakings in Karnataka. And the focus there will have a lot to do with the priorities of the Modi government rather than the Bommai government. Although Mr. Bommai has got a few new ideas going. On the other hand, the BJP's emphasis will perhaps be as much on Modi's personality and communal polarization as it is on matters of policy. Congress will have an array of policies, some of which are intended to be to help poorer groups along the Ahinda lines, and others will be intended to perhaps cultivate support amongst farmers and amongst Wokaligas, but also farmers else who are not Wokaligas. So I suspect that we'll see things develop along those lines in a sort of left of center plus pro-farmer set of policies.
Okay, more and more questions coming in. Ramesh PM asks, how will the increasing SC/ST reservation limit help BJP to get Dalit vote share from Congress?
I don't think it will make a lot of difference. I think what will make a difference are the traditional the connections that the BJP has with the ritually left-hand section of the scheduled caste or Dalit group. And they will not be able to make much headway against Congress in attracting votes from the ritually right-hand Dalit group, which has traditionally supported Congress, mainly because the new national president of Congress, is a member of the ritually right-hand Dalit group, Mr. Karge. So I think that will determine how the scheduled caste mainly vote.
I think we'll take two more questions and then close. Narayana A again asks, would you think the Karnataka electorate is more polarized today beyond the coastal Karnataka because of the recent communal strategy adopted by the BJP?
I think it probably is, because the kind of systematic campaign on so many different issues that the BJP has pursued will surely have made some changed some minds amongst people beyond the coast. But what we don't know is how many minds have been changed and how many people have been alienated by the communal polarization, because that was also a feature in previous elections. So we'll have to wait and see.
Last question for today. Vinod Jacob asks, what do you think would be the voting percentage, and will it improve in the upcoming elections, and will there be a change in vote share for the ruling party?
Well, that's the big question, and that's a question nobody can answer at this point, 5 months out and without much polling evidence. I would be quite surprised if the Congress vote share did not increase, if the BJP vote share did not decrease somewhat, perhaps in both cases not by much, and the future of the JDS vote share is a major mystery, because we don't know whether Mr. Devegowda's apparent plea that this is his last election, whether this will make any difference or not. We just don't know the answer to that crucial question, but let's wait with bated breath to find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for staying on for the full conversation. If you like what we do, please share it with your friends and family. You can also leave us a review or rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. The crew that makes these podcasts possible is Gaurav Krishna on sound supervision and production, with support from S. Sarvanaraj and Raghavendra Tenkaila. Artwork and design is by Chandni Venkataraman of Crisscross Design Studio. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast platform. It can also be accessed on our website, bangaloreinternationalcentre.org. Do follow us on Instagram for updates on all our programming. This is Lekha Naidu signing off on behalf of everyone at BIC.